Right, so Jeff P was initially telling us we should see a 2024 Apple Watch Ultra launch with micro LED, which is a new display tech that's above OLED, and so this would be a big change. But now Ross Young tells us this might actually launch in 2025 instead, so let's delve into it. So yes, Ross Young, a very credible source, says we should see the first micro LED Apple Watch launch in 2025, but interestingly he says it should launch in spring 2025 and production for these panels begins at the end of 2024. Now a spring release is pretty odd because ever since the original Apple Watch, we've seen a full release for new Apple Watches, and so I'm not sure why Apple's going to break that cycle for this. It seems pretty unlikely. Since remember, the Apple Watch is the ultimate accessory to the iPhone, so of course, always releasing it with the new iPhone makes the most sense. Now there is a chance that maybe we see a delayed release. For example, the OG Apple Watch was announced at the September event, but was only available to buy in March. And so maybe we see a similar delay for the micro LED Apple Watch, maybe a September 2024 announcement, and then a March 2025 release. And yeah, that could be the case, but personally, I don't think Apple's going to give us such a massive delay for what is essentially the same Apple Watch, but of course with a new display. I could understand a delay of a few weeks, but a few months seems very unrealistic. And so what I think is more likely to be the case is either Ross Young's false about this and Jeff Poo's right, we do see a 2024 release, or alternatively the production for the watch begins in spring 2025 and the actual release is in the fall of 2025 instead. Those definitely seem more likely than what Ross Young tells us. By the way guys, at least we now know that yes, micro LED is coming very soon to the Apple Watch, and I'm pretty excited for this. Why? Well, that's because over OLED, micro LED offers better colors, higher contrast ratios, the display should be easier to view in suboptimal lighting conditions, which is important for a watch since of course you're going to be outdoors. Also you have less chance of burn-in, a lower latency for higher refresh rates, faster response times, and reduced energy usage. So yeah, this basically is better than OLED in every single aspect, and it makes sense that the Apple Watch is first to get this, since there is still some difficulty producing these panels, and so beginning with a smaller panel that's going to be easier to produce does make the most sense. And then once they perfect the manufacturing process, we can see this come to iPhones, iPads, and future Macs. And actually the first OLED product Apple released was the Apple Watch, so clearly Apple does experiment with newer display tech on the Apple Watch first, so this makes sense. Now by the way, Jeff Poo did previously tell us we could see a display increase over the micro LED tech. It could now be 2.1 inches, and yeah, I'm assuming the body itself is going to remain the same size. Apple's just going to decrease the bezels and give us a bigger display. And hopefully micro LED does not remain an ultra exclusive. I do want to see the regular Apple Watch gain this, and eventually the Apple Watch SE, so hopefully that's the case. Anyways, let's delve into your questions. So David says, I was already planning to get the iPhone Ultra, but will probably hold on to it for as long as possible, which is why phone subscription is a non-starter for me with the cost of living crisis. I can't see a lot of sales this year, and he's already seen discounts on the Apple Watch Ultra. Now regarding your first point, I do understand that iPhones can be kept for years nowadays, and so you can easily keep the 15 Ultra for 3, 4, even 5 years, and upgrading on a yearly basis just isn't for everyone. And as I've said in previous videos, I'm sure Apple understands this, and that's why they're leaning into services. And when I say services, I mean iCloud, Apple TV Plus, Apple Arcades, Apple Music. That's recurring revenue for them all year round, and you don't need to buy new hardware, so Apple's fully aware of this. And this is kind of related to your other point regarding sales units being pretty low due to the cost of living crisis. And yes, I do agree with that to an extent, but of course, remember iPhone 14 demand's still very strong, and really the only thing affecting shipments is of course the supply constraints. And also remember that many consumers are not paying up front for these phones. They're trading in devices, they're taking advantage of deals, they're paying monthly for these, and so yeah, basically apart from us techies, I doubt that many are going to be paying $1,000 up front. And regarding discounts on the Apple Watch Ultra, do remember that's a niche product. Most consumers are not going to spend $800 on a watch. It's for those who do extreme sports, and so discounts on that make sense, but we rarely see discounts on new iPhones, and that's because the demand's still there for the product and they don't need price cuts. So at User says, if Apple really thinks cameras are so important, why don't they make a pro camera mode? Users can switch from the default camera app to, of course, a pro mode. And yeah, honestly, I'm not sure myself. I think it's time we see a pro mode for the iPhone, because when they're touting features like ProRes and ProRAW, having a basic camera app alongside it is not that great. And I know there are third-party apps that, of course, Apple themselves have promoted, but having this built in natively would be nice. So at Aquino X Paradise says, I think the portless iPhone will come till there is an airdropping feature but without compression. And yes, I would agree with that statement. I think Apple's ultimate goal is to give us a completely portless device, but right now the tech is not ready yet. And so the second Apple can transfer content via MagSafe, or maybe even AirDrop, I can see them going portless. So Opus Digital Audio says, the iPhone looks virtually the same from the 11, 12, 13, 14. We need a major redesign. I would argue the lack of a design change is a major reason people don't upgrade, because there's not enough separation between looking boss versus peasant. Now honestly, I doubt people care about looking boss with the iPhone, because yes, it's nice to show off your new phone to friends and families, but after a few weeks, that kind of wears off and it just becomes a tool in your life. Really, the only people that care about this are probably kids and enthusiasts like ourselves who can tell the difference between these phones. And hey, let's say that people do care about this. I would argue there have been enough changes between the 11 and 14. For example, flat sides, that was a big change. You also had the smaller notch with the 13 and the island with the 14, which of course was a big change on the front. And let's be honest guys, more people see the front of their devices than the back of the device. Also, new colors help you stand out. And so I don't think a major overhaul for the iPhone design is going to encourage many consumers to upgrade. Because ultimately, the main reason people aren't upgrading as often is because the iPhone has matured as a product. You can now easily keep your iPhone for 3 to 4 years. And so Apple can do whatever they like with the new phone, but people don't need it because their current phone works perfectly fine. And yeah, I think Apple knows this, and that's why they're leaning into services. And really all Apple cares about is that you stay on iOS and you do upgrade whenever you need every 3 to 4 years. But guys, tell me your thoughts regarding this report in the comments. Anyways, thank you for watching guys. Make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumors. And on that note, I'll see you guys in the next one.